Hey folks, Jeff here. I am not selling my 720. I never will, but I have decided it's time for me to start to thin out my games. I probably haven't had them turned on in at least a year, and I haven't done anything with them in a couple of years. So it's time to gain some of the space back in my garage. I'm starting off with the gem, my Discs of Tron. I'm just going to go over the whole game real quick to explain kind of the condition it's in. I've had it for about 10 years. I've done a lot of work to it. I got it non-working, had a power supply issue, and I put a switcher in it, and it got going. So I'm just going to kind of go through it top to bottom to explain the condition it's in and how it works and everything else. So it has a really nice marquee. I actually did a whole article on KLOV about how I figured out how to whiten these with Retro Bright. This is not one that I did that to. This was an original one that I bought from Kalen that he had found somewhere that is the least yellow one I had ever seen, and usually all of these letters will be very yellow with age. This has now been reproduced, and you can get a reproduction lenticular one that works great also, but I wouldn't see a need to do so with this one. This sort of bezel around here is, I believe, the original one. I don't think I replaced it. There is nothing wrong with this. Sometimes this will have like cracked paint in it that you'll see. This one's in pretty much perfect shape. This bezel around here is the original, and it does have like a slight crack in the paint here and some other imperfections, that kind of thing that probably has to be pointed out for you to be able to see it, but they are there. Screen is crystal clear. I capped it at some point in the time that I had it. Those kind of back painted designs there all light up pretty well under the black lights. They look good. I've been inside it and cleaned that 45-degree angle mirror that's in there, and it's in very good shape because of course the monitor is actually down there. Monitor is crisp and clear and dialed in. I'll talk a bit more about this in a second, but that sort of back layer that you can see, that I think it's a vellum piece, or I forget what it's called, but it's a sort of transparent piece. That is a reproduction that I got, again, I think from this old game, from Rich. I think so. I can't remember who produced those. I think it's Rich, though. Anyway, that one, I'll show also that I did add some extra light to the back of this to get that to show up more. I added an extra light down below, which is why it is so bright in there, and I really like how that effect comes through. So you'll never find a Disc of Tron that has such a clear, bright background like that. This piece is the original piece. It's not quite perfect, but pretty close. There's a couple little imperfections around there, but it's in good shape. This is a reproduction plastic overlay, so the light up kind of glowing under the fluorescent lamp really works well. This is an original joystick that was perfect, except for, I recall when I got it, it had like a cigarette stain, as we found on so many of our games, unfortunately, right in this spot, which I took like a little grinder to and grinded and then buffed it. So again, it's the kind of thing that would probably have to be pointed out to you to ever notice it, but I do want to mention that it's there. The light works, the controls all work perfectly. This is a brand new control panel overlay, again a reproduction, so it's in perfect shape. It has brand new T-molding on it that I put on. Coin door's original, and it was bent down here when I got it, and you can still sort of see some residual from that. I took this whole piece off, pounded it flat, repainted the whole thing, put it back in. The front I've spray painted black. It looks real good. I would say it's maybe not as nice as vinyl, but I cannot see any residual paint like you'll sometimes see the stripes in it. It looks very good, I believe. The coin door is good. I believe that the mechanisms all work, if I recall. It's set up to free play, and they do, because I had my games all working with, if you were to hit this, it would work, but I don't want to show that right now. I've also installed in this one, I forget what this is called. I think it's called the One-Up, Coin-Up, One-Up, that one of our collector friends has made at one point, that allows you to just start the game by pushing one player start and coin it up, and it works really well for a Discs of Tron. This additional wire that's in here, and this pot is for the speech. This has the squawk and talk added. I was not the first person, but one of the first to do that job, and many have done it since, where you've added the speech function from the environmental version into the upright. So this has that. I'll show it when I get around to the back. Here is the coin box that's in here, and in here are just a bunch of my notes from actually when I had added the speech. I went through many months of toil to try to figure that out, but it all works well now. I think I added this kick plate down here, but I don't recall, and I of course have it on wheels, which is the case with all of my games. I like to have them all on wheels so I can wheel them all around my garage. So let me play it real quick and just show how it's working. So this is going to be hard with the phone. Obviously, this is not a game that you would normally play with one hand, but let's go. So it coins up with just one press of the one player start button. Okay, there we go. There's a way better way to hold my phone. This way I can show this a little bit better. So, okay, starting off. If you squeeze the trigger, it won't do the speech at the beginning, and it goes through this quicker, but I'll let it play out so you can hear it.
Greetings. Master Control Program has chosen you to serve on the game grid.
So you can run around and shoot. This might be a lucky shot. Yeah, there we go. And then you can spinner. Works good. And the spinner actually does have the functionality where you can lift it, and that works perfectly too, which changes your angle up and down in some of those later levels. And on this speech version, he laughs at you as you get killed. One guy left. Second level. And we'll end the game. So yeah, it plays perfect. I've been pretty far into it. It's a fun game for sure. So side art. The side art is certainly not perfect, but it's in pretty good shape. I have touched it up, and to be honest with you, if I was going to keep this and was still into the hobby, I would probably sand all of this down, paint it flat, and put the reproduction artwork on it. When I got it, it had a lot of chips on this area, and they were pulled out, and you could see the wood, and I touched it up by trying my best to match the paint. So here you'll see that this paint's just a little bit different, and if you really scrutinize this closely, you'll see spots where I touched it up both in the purple and in the black and in this bright light. You can see it pretty good. So it's certainly not perfect, but you know, from a few feet back it looks like a pretty much almost perfect Discs of Tron. But again, like, I've touched up certain areas of this that you could see, and I think my paint's probably faded it a little bit over time. I swear I had the match a lot better, but there were scratches here, and I just touched them up so that you wouldn't be able to, just so that it like wouldn't draw your eye. That was before the side art was available. Like I said, you could sand all this down and put brand new side art on it, and you'd have like pretty much just about a mint Discs of Tron. This one was weird. It had something mounted in here that I've since filled these holes. There was something in here that was mounted, and I don't know what it was. I've since filled them in and painted over it, but you can still see some residual where the screws pushed through a little bit. So there's almost some little raised areas here, but it's odd. Again, it doesn't really draw your eye unless you know to look for it. Again, like I said, new T-molding. This side is sort of in the dark here, but it's got similar issues to what I had mentioned before. Turn my light on here a little bit. Got this other light here, where this area on this side right here was the biggest section. This was all like wood, like this has been peeled off here. So all this was repainted, everything from my finger over by me with a close purple over to here. And here's the original purple, and here's what I painted. Even this blue was like a touch-up match that I had done to just try to get this to not draw your eye. So this is not perfect for sure. If you wanted a fully restored one, you'd take all of this off and put on some nice new side art that you got. But like I said, you know, you squeeze these games in. I had it in there, so between those, so the side art was not a big issue. Let's take a look at the back. I'm gonna run around the other side here. Okay, so like close quarters here a little bit, but there's the back. It's dusty. It's got an on-off switch right there, which works. looks like it's .482 if I'm reading that right. And it's got its original decal on there and a couple of stickers, pretty cool. So this big piece of paper, I'm going to peel this off and then let you see what's in here. Because I normally have this taped at the top and the bottom, just with duct tape in here. But it's like a mirrored piece of poster board that you could get at an art supply store or something like that. And what it does is reflects these two lights that I have more strongly onto the backing, which is the backing that you see behind the playfield there, which this is the reproduction one that I have right here. So I added in this second light, and you can see, I mean, it's just added on a piece of wood that I attached there to get it a little bit higher, and I just wired it in straight up to the same lamps that are going to the other marquee lights in here. But it makes that a lot brighter, and I liked it quite a bit. The power supply is a switcher now that I just put in there. Probably would do this totally different now. This was my third game, and I didn't know a whole lot about the hobby, but it works just fine. The squawk and talk that I added is there to add the speech function. It's got a couple little clips that are clipped on. You can't see the black one very well, but there's the red one, and there's a black one down there that are sort of like speech jump-on points to the main board, and that is how you do this. And that other little connector that's right here is one that I've added in too, that you do to actually add that in, so that all works well. But you know, not all the wiring in here then is going to be like stock or factory, because of course this stuff's all been added manually by creating wire, and I wrote on here. But again, it all does work. Monitor works really well. It's got a separate pot in there to control the volume of the speech versus the rest of the sound. There it is, yeah, .482. So the other shortcoming for this is I don't have a good back door for it, but if I was to ship this, I would probably need to get one. Otherwise, I'd like to get it picked up locally and not have to deal with that too much. But we'd probably want to put one on anyway if we were moving this thing around. But at any rate, that's my Discs of Tron. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you're interested. You can always reach me at my email at jeff@720zone.com. Thanks.